At this time, we'll call our meeting to order. We appreciate everyone here in attendance. We will apologize on the front end that we do have an air conditioning problem. It's not miserable right now, but just know that we have addressed it and it's going to be fixed, but it is something that we can't do anything about. It's just it's here. This time tonight we have Reverend Dr. Ron Godbolt from Word of Truth Ministry to lead us in our invocation, and that will be followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. If you will, all please rise.
Testing. Let us pray. Gracious Father, we thank you for this day you bless us to see. We thank you for allowing us to come together for life, health, and strength, Lord. And we thank you for our mayor, our commissioners, and those in authority. And we pray now that you've given them guidance in this meeting. Let everything be done to your glory and that your name get all the honor and praise. We thank you for what you've already done and how you continue to bless us and protect us and keep us. And Lord, we ask you to continue to do that. We give your name all the praise, all the glory, honor, and praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. At this time, I do have before me one change to the agenda, and that would be to pull item under the case ZNG-01-22, which is on our agenda. It's actually item E, and that is going to be deferred until our September 19th meeting. So again, that will be item E under our public hearings. Do we have another change to our agenda?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to remove item C from the consent agenda, place it under new business,
Okay.
and also to add under new business the consideration of accepting the proposal for Carolina Parks and Play for the purchase of the installation of the municipal park splash pad.
Okay. And that will be, we'll make the item C will become item B under new business. And then we'll add an item C, which would be the consideration of the proposal for the Carolina Parks and Play. Is there any other changes that you'd like made to our agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve the agenda with those changes that we've gone over?
Make a motion.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. The next we have official comments, and I'll start this evening with Commissioner Marley.
I don't have anything this time, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Scroller?
Glad to see everyone's smiling faces here. It's a little warm. Humble apologies. That's all I have.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Madam Mayor, I would like to just thank everybody that supported the Pride Movers event, Family Fun Day event this weekend, and Starbucks and Hope Mills donated coffee and pastries and things for our volunteers, so definitely wanted to say thank you to them and be sure that we support them. And then also I'd like to just thank the staff for the 4th of July parade. I didn't say for the fireworks, but the parade was nice. And it's good to see everybody. That's all.
Okay. Commissioner Legg?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I also would like to thank everyone that came out this evening. I would like to give credit to the Parks and Recreation Department for doing a great job with the parade and the fireworks celebration. Also, we have one team that's qualified for the World Series, and that would be the Ozone 12 and under team. But the World Series for them will be in Lumberton this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mitchell?
Good evening. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I have a sad note. A couple of weeks ago, we lost a former prisoner of war, post commander Jacob Roth. We're doing a memorial service for him this coming Saturday at 3226 Davis Street at VFW Post 10630. And for some of you that don't know, him and Bud is the only two remaining Korean prisoner of wars that's left in this area. And Commander Jake Roth was on the Korean Death March. He spent his 18th birthday as a prisoner of war. And so we want to definitely send him off and do his family well this coming Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you. Just first to let you know that, and some of you might recognize the name, but with Mayor's Coalition, of course, the mayors of all the small municipalities, we know each other very well, but the former mayor of Linden, Mayor Butler, passed away yesterday morning. And so just keep their family in your prayers, and of course they'll send us more information when they do have the arrangements for her. The other thing is just a sort of a reminder, and also let you know that Southview High School is celebrating their 50th anniversary this year, and they have a lot of plans coming up. The first is a parade on August the 27th. It will be on Legion Road from Hope Mills Middle School up to the high school. But they're planning some big events, and so they want the community support, but they also are going to need sponsorships for some of the things that they're doing. There is a committee that I'm serving on that committee. We meet once a month, and they'll be bringing out more information. But the big thing coming up is the kickoff for the school year, because school actually starts on August 29th, but that parade on that Saturday is their kickoff for their 50th year. So anyway, so you need to know that. And that's all that I have for this evening. Again, welcome everyone for being here. We do have a special presentation this evening, and I said that, and I think I made the comment to his mother, and I know that Mayor Pro Tem McCray also knows about this young man, but this young man started coming before me my first year as mayor.
Yes.
So I have watched him not only achieve a lot of important recognition, and we've helped him sometimes with things that he's done, but just know that he's 17 years old now, and he has just graduated with honors from Coleman International Early College High School. He started Methodist University in August 2021. He graduated in May 2021. And as a junior, he's still 17 years old. He made the 2021 fall semester academic honor roll with a 3.0 and higher. In April of 2022, the athletic banquet presented him with the Scholar Athlete Award and his varsity letter in soccer. This past spring, Al-Asadair and his soccer team were crowned the 2022 U19 North Carolina Kepner President's Cup soccer champions. So in recognition for his academic and his athletic achievement, I'd like to recognize Al-Asadair Sebastian Ray, and if you'll come up, I'll give you this certificate to add to your collection, and just know how very proud we are that you choose to represent not only yourself but your family and all of our youth in such a great way.
Well, he done grow it up. Yeah, he done. Yeah, he has grown. Yes.
Okay, tonight we have our public safety building project update, and from our architect, Mr. Garner, Scott Garner. And Mr. Garner, you have done such a good job in your presentation in our agenda that I have had one of the commissioners say that it's not necessary for you to give as much detail tonight because they understand what we need. But just I wanted to give you that update so you'll know that that's a compliment, that it was there in their agenda, and they're prepared tonight and they understand what it's all about. So I turned over to our architect, Mr. Garner.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll tell my wife that you said for me not to give too much detail. She says I do that all the time. So. But thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here, and nice to see you, commissioners and mayor. And since you have acknowledged that it is warm, and you already know I do own a jacket, I won't wear it tonight, so we'll get on with the report. The construction is moving forward. It's going pretty well. It's hot. We're still pretty hot outside, and so that is one factor that we have to take into account. Outside, they have put in the sewer line from in the front manhole to the first manhole so that we can tie the building into it. And then, when the fire station is demolished, we can run the rest of the sewer line back for the library. But we can't do that until that's demolished. The water line has been put in. It's being tested. We're waiting. The Fayetteville Public Works has been very attentive. They have people on the site all the time. We have the water line in from out here all the way around to Golfview. It's not tied in at Golfview. That will happen in phase 3, but it's ready to be tied in. So we're making good progress. Topsoil's been brought in. Some grass has been planted. We're trying to stabilize it, and things are moving along. Inside, the electrical power has been turned on, and the next thing is to get it ready to turn on the air conditioning, and the workers are looking forward to that. We're not quite ready to do that yet. Installation of the elevator will start tomorrow. The walls are being painted. Plumbing is mostly in. They're putting in toilet partitions. We still have floor finishes, cabinets, door hardware. There's still a lot of work to do, but we're still on target to turn the building over or take possession of the building mid-September. So we're looking forward to that. Tonight, we'll talk about change order number 9, and I will not go through too much of it. There are 5 parts to it. And the first part is for some receptacles that we added that were required to be dedicated circuits. One appliance was added, and one we noticed was on a shared circuit. And so it's important that we do that. The next item is the makeup air for the firefighter's kitchen. We had put in a gas appliance for that, a standard residential appliance. When the fire department selected it, they selected a larger range, which changed the requirements so that we now have to induce fresh air for combustion and for breathing. And that's a life safety issue. It is a code requirement that we do that. It would be appropriate. I think the range they selected is appropriate for the size fire department they have. And with that, there is some demolition and some retrofit because we had not planned for it. This was a change that's being made. It has not been made yet, but we have to cut the slab. We have to put in some ductwork. We have to put in a control damper. And there are various things that we have to do to accommodate that, to retrofit for it. The next item is processing, and what's happened is we've got a new police chief, and he has been very attentive to the new building and has looked at it very carefully about what their needs will be. And I say that as a compliment to him because we're going to be in this building a long time, and we want to get it right. And so he's added some equipment in the processing room, which would be a fingerprint machine, a video machine so that they can talk to the judge, and out in the bay, evidence drying machine. So all of those things require a little bit of electricity. We have to do that, I think he's looking ahead is what he needs to do. Another thing is because I think the police department has reached some agreement with outside departments for the use of that processing room. They need greater control over it, so they want to add access control so that people from other law enforcement departments cannot get into the police building. And that's very logical. I think that's very logical. He's added a few cameras, and cameras are a good thing so that we can always look back and see what really happened and who was where, when, and whatever. That's all good. And the last thing is a paging system. And there was, when we designed the building, there was a meeting between the police department, fire department, and the AV engineer, and there was some miscommunication. And they designed a system for a public safety department. And so what we really need is we need two systems. And we're very fortunate that this was caught early. It'll cost a little bit to fix it, but it won't cost nearly as much as if we had already installed it. So it would be a good change, and it's an appropriate change for this building. We're going to have a very nice building, and we want to have a state-of-the-art communication system. So sum total, that's it for the changes, and I think that we need all of them. The amount is, let's see, you probably have the amount. I think it's $74,000 some odd dollars.
74,735.
Yeah, I don't have that right here, but I would recommend approval. Do we have any questions?
Do we have any questions for,
Oh, yes.
all right,
Madam
Commissioner
Mayor.
Scarola? Yes, ma'am.
Don't hate me for this. You can hate me, that's okay. So the first thing I want to ask about is the gas range. Okay. Now looking at the actual request, that range itself is that looking for everything $12,000 for this hood because of the hood is not the right one because of this really
The hood is correct. The hood is correct. We're still in a residential range. It's not a commercial hood. But what we have to add is we have to add fresh air, and that means that we have to have a damper to control when the air comes in and when it goes out. And we have to add ductwork, and we have to add various things to that.
Okay, I mean, my problem is this is acted like we're just throwing money away because
Yes.
every month it's something else. And I get it, there's some changes, necessities. Is this type of stove a necessity?
I think this is a good fit. I'm gonna ask Chief Hodges to address that. But, I mean, I think what we put in was a regular gas range like you would have in your house, okay? And the fire department is gonna be much larger than that. But the fire department selected the range.
He's right behind you.
He's right behind you.
Okay. It's not Chief Hodges.
I'm the operations chief, so when we went through and we did our needs assessment about 8 years ago, when we started planning this building with the architect, Chief Hodges and myself and the Chief of Charter, part of the needs assessment was larger bunk space for my people. Our people, my bunk room right now looks like General Pop at Central Prison, so that was one of the key pieces of our design, and the kitchen. And the reason for the kitchen, the reason for this stove, it's an 8-burner stove, but it is still considered residential. It has not got a grill on it or anything like that. But during hurricanes, during emergencies, when we're locked in, it's all 3 of our shifts that are locked in at the same time. So you're talking 40 folks, all trying to make meals in a kitchen. On a residential 4-burner stove, it just doesn't work. So it is a necessity. Is it expensive? It is. But when we were locked in here 9 days and everybody was in, it was chaos. And trying to feed all those people while you're still going out and pulling people out of the water, it's just not conducive. So I would say to you that one of the things that's commonly a misconception is that our people live in this building.
Right.
So the things that you have in your home, we have to have in our building.
We agree.
Okay. Is it expensive? Well, yeah, living in a home's expensive as well. But there's 11 guys per shift. They're locked in. This is where they live. So the stove is a necessity.
Right.
Is there anything else that?
Yes,
can-
on the stove, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Now, on this particular stove, is that, and the price that it is that's the most cost-effective or best use of the dollars for that price?
It was.
It-
When we did the research on it, trying to locate a stove that was gonna be non-commercial, because that was our goal. Because a commercial stove requires much more ventilation than what we're talking about right now,
That's a suppression system.
and that as well. So we have a suppression system for the building, but to add to that, just for the stove, would be a large amount of money.
And see, this other piece that confuses me is that when we was designing the building, we did not talk about this, because now you gotta go in and cut something out that you put in. Am I
Well,
correct?
We've had the stove delivered months ago. It's been here.
But I'm saying in the design,
I think he's asking, when we designed the building, we put in a standard residential range, a full burner range.
right,
And that's what they had in the fire.
mm-hmm,
We did not select the range at that time. We put an allowance in. We said, we've got this much money in the contract, and the fire department will make the selection of the appliances later during construction.
but I'm talking about the air duct system. Now you gotta make modifications to accommodate the air duct, which is an additional cost. You know, it's just that, that's the kind of expenditures that I struggle with, because when you plan, you have to plan and factor those things in the process, but not, I mean, what's wrong with buying 2 electrical stoves or 3 electrical stoves for that same price?
Then you'd have to have the wiring.
The code, we used to do that. We used to buy 2 residential ranges and put them side by side.
Uh-huh.
And the people in Raleigh said, can't do that anymore. They won't let us do that.
They won't let you do that anymore.
I mean, that-
And this range is not electrical, it's gas.
Right, and it's no gas, right.
Much more efficient. Our current firehouse has nothing but electrical appliances.
Right.
Very costly.
Right. Screw.
I had also, excuse me, question about the processing room. I don't know if I don't
That's
know
cheap.
if that's,
It was the police chief.
please, okay. Just out of curiosity, were a lot of these, add-ons, you waited until the budget was approved? Because I mean, all this stuff, it just seems like all of a sudden, all this stuff was thrown on. I mean, now we're gonna have other local law enforcement use the building for processing?
Well, the reason being is, see, right now, whenever our officers get a drunk driver, they have to go all the way to Cumberland County to process them on an intox machine.
Mm-hmm.
And because all of the intox machines in the county are located at the Cumberland County Jail, so our officers have to leave town for maybe an hour or 2, maybe more.
It's
just to
downtime.
Process a drunk driver.
Wow.
So I contacted the state, and they're willing to give us an intox machine, so that our officers can process them right here.
Okay.
Never have to leave town, because most of the time for a drunk driver, you get an unsecured bond, so they can do all the processing here, release them right here, and never have to leave. But in order for them to do that, they asked if we would be willing, if the Cumberland County Jail was packed, where there was a bunch of agencies there.
Okay.
If we would allow somebody to come in and use our intox machine, so in order for us to get it, we made that agreement.
I like that. That's a good idea.
But this was never, never spoken about in
Okay.
regards to, this is all, right now, see what they're looking to do here in the county, is they're looking to go to video conferencing with the magistrate. So again, once one of our officers makes an arrest, a felony arrest, they have to truck them all the way over to Cumberland County to see a magistrate. Here, we're gonna be able to do our own electronic fingerprints that get sent automatically to the state, process the drunk driver in an intox machine, and then video conference with the judge, or the magistrate. So then, if there is a bond, all we have to do is drop them off at the jail, so it's a few minutes thing as opposed to spending hours over there doing all the processing.
Okay.
And so that is also beneficial, because if we have 2 or 3
Oh, yeah.
officers processing prisoners, we don't have 2 or 3 officers out of town.
Yes.
Then if there is an emergency, 2 officers can run out and one can watch the prisoners until they get back.
Makes sense.
So,
Okay, that makes more sense, yeah.
Yes.
And if we had had this kind of attention, when we were putting the drawings together, we wouldn't be talking about these changes now. We would have incorporated exactly what he's talking
I'm just
about.
trying to make it more
yeah,
efficient.
No,
So our
no.
officers spend their time here as opposed to spending hours
No.
out of town. It doesn't make sense to pay them to be out of.
No, I like that.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So I just want to be clear. A lot of this stuff is being added because it was not added on the front end the way it should have been added on the
That
front
is
end.
correct.
Yes.
Yeah, and I didn't have any, I wasn't here.
It was an input, yes.
I'm
Yeah.
just, I know, I'm just making it clear for the listening audience
Right.
when they're saying we're just approving the $75,000.
Well-
If it would have been given some forethought then, and it would have been included.
It would make it easier, and I would have preferred that. Instead of
Yeah.
Making a change now, I would have preferred that.
Yeah. And I think-
all of these
yeah.
items are covered under the
Yeah.
contingency.
Well, that's what I was going to say for clarity, and because some people hear that it wasn't improved in the budget. This is a separate budget,
Right.
and this budget is money that has a contingency. So that when we borrowed the money to build the facility, we put in there just in case we had some changes. And at that time, we did not have our current police chief, so the changes that he's making are changes that would not have been in there. But that's the thing also to be aware of, is that our general public needs to understand that this isn't coming from added on money that we would have in our current budget. This is from a budget that we actually have had in place since we started the construction.
It was built into the contingency, and we have not used the full contingency, so we're in good shape.
Right.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just one other statement.
Okay.
On the change orders, and I think y'all probably heard Commissioner Legg say, because he said he hates change orders, and my concern is making sure that we are good stewards of this money, and that we make sure we focus on the things that is required and not desired. I mean, when I see certain things in there, you know, I now understand if you like the hood, the range, and stuff like that. Go a little bit further and explain that in detail so that we can read about it, so that now you kind of create, it's desired, but at the same time, it's required because it will allow you to accommodate more. And it's much easier for us to understand that then, because I was prepared to say no to that.
Well, I used the police chief and the fire chief to tell me what they need.
I understand.
And we talk about what they need.
Yeah, we're good.
And if it's simply a want, we don't really get into that so much. But we're trying to get only what they need to do their job.
I'm with them
Any
there.
other questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I normally don't support change orders, but because of the circumstances in this one and the need, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the change order. The need.
All right. I have a motion to approve the change order.
I'm a second that.
Okay, I have a second over here, so I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed, thank you very much, sir.
Enjoy that.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you very much,
I
Mayor.
got some
I hope it wasn't too much
information there.
detail.
No, it's perfect.
Thank you. It's
All right.
important.
Uh-huh. All right, next we have public hearings. The first is on moratorium, a public hearing to determine if a temporary moratorium should be placed on certain types of business while overlay districts are being considered. And I will turn this over to Mr. McLaughlin.
Hello, Madam Mayor, fellow
Hello.
commissioners. This is basically tied to something we've talked about at our last two hearings. Not too much to discuss. What you have in your packets is the original staff report that I provided about 2 hearings ago, but the actual moratorium legislation that just simply outlines the 5 uses that we are contemplating putting in this moratorium. I haven't received any correspondence from the board about any additional uses. I think Mr. Mitchell talked about us adding some language, almost like a catch-all. But other than that, that's basically it. It's not really a presentation here. It's just meant for you guys. This particular agenda item is meant for us to go ahead and approve it. This sunsets in January. I basically felt that at the end of the year would probably be the best amount of time to give us the time that we would need to put the overlay districts in place. Because as we have our work sessions, we do have to allot for the amount of time for that new legislation to go through planning board and things of that nature. So I do feel confident that January of next year will give us that amount of time to make these changes. Any questions?
How are we gonna choose what businesses that would wanna put a moratorium on?
That's what the work sessions are for. And just full disclosure, you're doing overlays in commercial areas. So you're dealing with, basically, I want you to put your frame of mind around when you're driving around town and you're seeing all the commercial areas. Which areas do you feel you would like to see preserved and protected in this current state? Which areas would you like to see some things kind of pushed back a little bit? But the moratorium will only apply pretty much to commercial areas, and we'll determine those commercial areas through the work sessions. We're going to come with some suggested areas, but the purpose of the work sessions is, one, to identify where you're going to do this, and to identify the specific things that you want to add to it. Primarily, what we're talking about here is just stopping certain uses from being in those areas, but you may want to talk about some design guidelines and things of that nature to go into those moratoriums, into those overlays. So I'm not sure if you guys want to go to the length of materials and colors and things of that nature. Some areas do have those in the overlay districts, but that's what the work sessions are intended to do, to give us the opportunity to develop the framework so that when this moratorium sunsets and these uses are allowed, we know specifically where they're gonna be allowed and specifically where they're not. And that's one thing I fielded some calls from business owners and things of that nature who think that we're eliminating these uses outright from the code, and we aren't. We're just simply saying that for a period of time, we're not gonna allow them to move forward, and then when those overlay districts are created, we know we funnel them into certain areas that we feel that are more desirable for these uses. We're just saying that right now we have some reservations about them being put anywhere, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
This is pretty much like a tool that allows to have better control of what goes where.
Yes.
But we need to, and I think I called and mentioned this to you, that we need to put another category. It's a good standard business practice to include, if you can, a catch-all, a verbiage in there that says, and other point, structures of things of interest that the town or the board seeing, based on the recommendation of the staff feels, and, something of that nature. And we go on the record so we can have that in place. I think that will go a long way once you get with the attorney, see what language need to be in there.
And I wouldn't have an issue with that. Ultimately, like I said, the main tool of a moratorium is just to allow us some time to work through an issue, and so that we're not exposed for
Right.
these uses, because they are still calling. Trust me. But I think this plan of action, because we could do the overlays without it, but we're waiting for 4 months for the overlay work sessions and the legislation to come through. These uses can continue to be submitted for approval. So that's why I felt that once I captured your audience or your ear in terms of your interest in doing overlays, I felt like the moratorium first gives us the time to be able to put that in place.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I just have a question.
Okay.
So you've been getting feedback from potential,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And some of them are legitimate, where we have some future plans that are gonna come that won't be submitted or constructed before January. But while we're having these conversations, because if you notice what we're doing when we bring these annexations to you, you guys may not be aware, we're talking to these developers 5-6 months in advance. And so while they're hearing some of these things, if their timeline for construction is this time next year, this really isn't that big of a deal to them. It's the ones that are gearing up that may have to, understand that when this lifts, there's certain areas you probably won't be able to do these uses anymore.
That's good.
Okay.
Do we need to make a motion?
Yep.
Yes.
I gotta have a public hearing. Gotta have a public hearing.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
At this time, is there anyone here that would like to speak in reference to this moratorium, either for or against this proposal? And just for the public that might be listening, these are the 5 areas that we're looking at on this moratorium, and that would be motor vehicle parts and accessory sales, motor vehicle repair and or body work, motor vehicle rentals, motor vehicle sales, new and used, and then rental establishments primarily tied to smoke shops and vape establishments. Those are the primary areas that we're looking at putting a moratorium on until January 2023. So is there anyone here that has an interest in speaking either for or against, or comments in reference to?
Motion to close public hearing.
Okay, motion to close public hearing. At this time now, do we have action?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the moratorium on certain commercial developments.
Okay, I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Mayor,
Yes.
just one question for
Okay.
Chancellor. So, and I understand the moratorium, and I understand, I just want to clarify, businesses that are there now will remain, and stuff
Yeah.
that's been permitted before tonight
That's
will
correct.
still be good
That is
just from
correct.
tonight on
And
for
I'm
6
glad you pointed
months.
that out because we do have a couple being permitted right now. And so, those projects, anything that basically had been submitted or approved prior to the adoption of this is pretty much grandfathered in.
Yeah.
And business, I wanna say this, we're not shutting down any of these businesses. So if you operate now, you're not grandfathered in, you're just a use that, is in an area where no further
Well,
ones can come in.
I actually had some phone calls on this, and that's what people were worried about. But you know, I told them, I said, if you're in business now, or you've got your permitting, or you've
Yeah,
been
then you're
permitted
fine.
before tonight, then you're fine.
That's pretty much been the nature of my phone calls. Not anybody in opposition of it. It's just more of a concern that if they are currently operating one of those, or if they have one that they've submitted, they just wanted to make sure they're
Yeah.
okay.
I just wanted to clarify and put that
Yeah.
out there.
That's a good point.
I'm good, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Thank you,
And
sir.
I would think there might be some more that we may discuss at a workshop later.
That's the catch-all.
That's the catch-up.
All righty. Next thing on our agenda is case ZNG-006-22, the rezoning of 14.87 plus or minus acres from R6 residential to R5A residential and CZ conditional zoning, or to a more restrictive zoning district located the west of Elk Park Drive on the south side of North Carolina 59, north of Huntington Ridge Road on Reed 041406392800, submitted by Rodney Sherrill on behalf of Elk Park Development. And I'll turn it back over to Mr. McLaughlin.
As stated by Madam Mayor, this is case ZNG-006-22. As it relates to background information, as stated earlier, it's a 14.87 acre tract located at the end of Elk Park Drive, south side of North Main Street. It's basically behind the existing Walmart, but you have to drive behind the existing Lowe's to get to it. Elk Park Drive is the road behind Lowe's. It's currently zoned under the R6A district. The site is the former location of a manufactured home park that was there before Walmart and Lowe's was constructed. The area to the immediate north is zone CP. The area to the immediate south is a pretty established residential neighborhood designated under R75 district. There is a manufactured home park to the northwest. The proposal is for the facilitation of 198 unit multifamily residential development. They did do a traffic impact study that DOT required that concluded that the project would have minimal impact on the area, and there were no improvements recommended. They are required to have 297 parking spaces. They have 288, which is also tied to the conditional zoning request. That's one of the items they're asking for relief on. Southwest Plan does designate this as medium density residential, which this is in compliance with. And here is your existing zoning. As you can see, there's established R75 or R10 development to the south. Everything to the north is pretty much commercial. This is the location of your water and sewer. There are no hydric inclusion soils on site. This is your future land use map that shows that the request is in compliance with the current land use designation of low density or medium density residential. This is the layout of the actual apartment complex, and I'd like to acknowledge a resident in the audience that has had communications with me and the developer. He lives in the houses off of Hunting Ridge Road, and he had two concerns that I was actually successfully able to address. He indicated that a lot of those pine trees in the rear of their houses, they have some concerns on how big they are when hurricanes and things come in terms of them falling over and destroying trees. The developer did say he was going to remove those for his development. And they also were curious about any landscaping or privacy fences that would be required. Buffering wouldn't be required because this is a residential beside residential, but the developer has agreed that he's going to put landscape buffering around the entire perimeter of the development, which will soften some of the I wouldn't say intrusiveness in the neighborhood, but I think the neighborhood was talking about some kind of screening of some sort, and the developer agreed to that as well. Also, just with these, if you notice around the perimeter, they're going to have detached garages for each of the residential units. They've talked to us in the area. There's this growing trend of companies looking for developments that have the electric car charging stations. That's becoming a pretty popular thing, and it's a selling point for a marketing point for development. So they'll have some of that in here as well. Pretty elaborate clubhouse and amenities. These are the site photographs. This is a view looking west along Elk Park Drive, approaching the subject property. This is a view looking east from the subject property along Elk Park Drive. This is an interior view of the subject property. This is another interior view of the subject property. And here is your staff recommendation. The Cumberland County Joint Planning Board heard the case last month and recommended approval unanimously. And Town of Hope Mills staff recommendations for approval as well. And I'd like to open up the floor to any questions that you may have.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
I only noticed one entry
Yes.
to that property. I thought they had to have two.
The fire code requires a secondary entrance for residential, single-family residential construction over 30 units. Or you have to sprinkle the buildings. Because multifamily is considered commercial development, they have to sprinkle those buildings anyway. So that secondary entrance isn't necessarily required for multifamily.
Okay.
And
Over
what is
200
this?
units.
And what is this?
I'll clarify that. The threshold for multifamily is 200 units. That does kick in the secondary entrance. For single-family residential, it's 30. And their capping there is at 198.
What's going to be the impact on the residents around that area? What's the traffic count?
Ultimately, that's why they did the traffic impact study. That's not me speaking for it. That's not the developer speaking for it. DOT required that, and that's what I put in the staff report, that the traffic study, because there were concerns about Butler Road and Main Street where the Chick-fil-A is, and the traffic impact study did conclude that there would be very minimal impact on that DOT roadway. And so that's ultimately what they provided with the application to address the issue that was raised.
Madam Mayor?
Mayor, I'm sorry. Is the entrance that you showed up here, that has nothing to do with Walmart parking lot, does it?
No.
Okay. But I don't think they would like all this additional traffic just driving through.
Well, you're probably talking about Lowe's. They have had conversation with Lowe's, pretty extensive conversation with Lowe's, but Lowe's didn't indicate any opposition to the project.
But Lowe's is off of Butler Street,
Yes.
so.
Ma'am, yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Now, I'm reading through this where they talk about the traffic assessment. Question one would be, have they said anything about how much these apartments will cost?
No, they did not indicate the price point. I would surmise that I wouldn't consider them to be very high end, but
Okay.
when you have an apartment complex that has a clubhouse with a pool and detached garages, I would think that the quality of it is probably going to be pretty high.
Yes.
Okay.
But
And-
they didn't give us the price point, though.
Okay, and it won't even be a question, it'd be a concern, because it says that they did the traffic counts, the quality counts from 7 to 9 in the morning to 4 to 6 p.m. And being a military town, soldiers gotta be at PT before 6:30, so I dread to see traffic coming out of there at that stoplight when soldiers are trying to get to PT in the morning by 6:30. I mean, that's just an opinion of mine, you know. That's all I got, man.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I heard that you mentioned that developers have agreed to put in shrubbery-type buffering.
Yes.
I would like for us to go a step further and require them to put in a privacy fence to buffer the neighborhood, and and I can tell you that if they don't, individuals will somehow find a way to create a path to begin to walk through the neighborhoods and no houses behind there. Not all, but some probably would. So I'd like to put that in as a conditional requirement.
What I will say, we did have that conversation. They indicated they'd be willing to put some buffering. One thing I would just clarify legally is when you're doing conditional zoning, any condition that we put on it have to be mutually agreed upon by the developer. I did not get, and I talked to them an hour before the meeting, I didn't get an indication that if you were to require a fence, that they would be in opposition to it. I would probably suggest that you say some type of fencing, because if you say privacy fencing, you're looking at the wooden type fencing. I think more of your upper echelon type developments, they'd probably be pushing for your black ornate wrought iron fence,
Okay, yeah.
where it still provides that
Right.
that security measure you're
Right.
talking about. But for some of your high-end pieces, that wooden fence just wouldn't. I don't
Okay.
think from an aesthetical standpoint, that
Well,
would be. But I don't think that the developer would be opposed to that if you were to clarify maybe some type of fencing or buffering.
Well, you the planner developer, whatever fence you recommend.
Any other questions for Mr. McLaughlin?
Yeah, it's safe
sir.
for our fire trucks, right?
Yes.
Plenty of room for the fire trucks.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, we're motion to open public hearing.
Madam Mayor, make a motion to open public hearing.
Okay, at this time, is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this development? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to this development? Any comments at all? Here comes somebody.
He's the guy. Hey, Mayor, and I think he means his hand, too.
I'm Sally Bailey, and I live on 5857 Honey Ridge Road. I'm not in opposition to this, okay? I've got some questions. Okay, so we're building all this stuff out here on Walmart, and we're going to take down what trees are sitting there, and then we're going to take up and clean up Elk Park Road, okay? And what I would like to know is, I live back there, okay? And I don't live behind where I'm living facing that, okay? The light comes in, the noise comes in. I mean, at 11 o'clock at night, you can hear the 18-wheelers coming in. The traffic from Hope Mill Road, we're already hearing, okay? And I don't hear very well, okay? So you know if it bothers me. But what about the light coming into people's back of their homes and stuff? You got to have security light for these people, okay? I understand that. I don't want them not to have it. But what can be done to protect the neighborhood back here so that we're not facing all the lights? I mean, I'm already fixing everything from Walmart's to Lowe's, okay? I mean, they start, and I understand they're working, okay? I mean, sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's kind of like they're delivering something out there. So we got to listen to all that. And I mean, people work. You know, I guess you got to get the earplugs in. And I also want to know something. If they build this back behind Walmart, where's the traffic coming out there? I mean, maybe I missed something on that one. I know where it's coming out on Elk Park Road. Can somebody please tell me who Elk Park Road is? I never heard of this development. Have they done anything else in Cumberland County? Have they done it all in Fayetteville? I mean, we don't know them, do we? I mean, I know Cheryl through a professional thing, okay? But as far as him building something, never heard his name put out, nothing. So who is he and what is Elk Park Development? And what else is he gonna do? Is this just the one thing, or is he doing all of this? You know, who's backing him up? That would be another thing, but then that's his problem as far as money's concerned, correct? But there are some things I really would like to know, and I'm not against development in Hope Mills, but I wanna know when we're gonna start protecting the neighborhoods. We have a right to live in peace. We have a right to not have lights shown in your backyard. Of course, I guess if we wanted to play putt-putt or something in the backyard, we could probably do it now, okay, we can see that well. So anyway, answer some questions on that for me and see if we can work out something. Most developments are put off by themselves, not back behind Walmart and Lowe's. I personally don't know why they want to put one there, except that's land in Hope Mills. But to me, that's not a great place to put a development anyway. I feel sure they'll fill it up because nobody's buying anything, they're renting it. But that was what's worrying me, okay, is that, and you're not protecting the neighborhood. And then something else y'all got to realize, this is county. Rockfish Road, Hunting Ridge Road, where you come in on Rockfish Road, the old Hayes property, all that is county. All the way you go around the curve and back up in there, okay? That's why those trailers have been sitting there for so many years, was because the county gave them permission. It's not Hope Mills property. So we know something's being developed there. And we keep hearing that there's going to be a park that's there, and the gentleman that built them across, on Rockfish Road, across the street from Hunting Ridge Road, it's got the little white fence, that he's putting those there. Where's the traffic gonna run? And I realize also that if they get annexed in Hope Mills, then you can do something about it. But what if we can't do anything about it till it's too late? You know, and again, here we go, another residential area, and the people living across the street there. We don't really wanna look at the back of the apartments and see trash cans sitting everywhere. And I have a feeling that's what we're gonna end up doing. So, I mean, are they gonna make it, you know, looking nice? I feel sure the guy will. The ones on Rockfish Road look good. But is it going to protect the neighborhood again? You know, we have enough of problems in the neighborhood now. I don't need to add any more to it, okay? Clara's on my speed dial. Does that tell you something? So anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you. Did you want to speak too, sir?
If I may, I don't need to go up there, I can come out there. My name's James Fass, I live at 2156 Sir Michael here in Woodmill. I'm looking, and I spoke to the council a few weeks ago about the roads into my neighborhood. And then you showed these pictures here. Those roads are pitiful. I mean, I thought my roads going to my neighborhood are bad, but the ones that were shown, I don't know if they're gonna be redone or repaved, but it says right there, negative impacts, won't have any negative impact on traffic, due to traffic. But those roads are impassable. Those roads are, you know, you need four-wheel runs to get down the roads that you showed there a few minutes ago. And if that's what's gonna remain as roads around here, you guys, you know, if that's gonna be a county road or probably not a state road, but just something to think about. Because I wouldn't buy a house there if those are the roads out there.
May I ask another question, Madam Mayor?
Sure.
Is the land that they're proposed to put this on part of the old trailer park?
Yes, but I want to start at the beginning and kind of go through with addressing the comment. So one thing I'll say in terms of the current noise that the neighborhood is hearing, that's tied to Lowe's and Walmart. And so there's nothing that is we can do through the authority of a rezoning for residential that we can do to address those issues. This is basically a residential development. So I do not anticipate that particular issue would be increased or exacerbated by this development. I will say in terms of lighting, any lighting along Elk Park Road, that's tied to Lowe's, but our code does specify down lighting for multifamily developments, which should in turn reduce some of that light spillage on the adjacent properties to the south that are residential. As it relates to traffic, Elk Park Road is the only way in and out, which is why DOT require that impact study. The roadways that I think he's looking at in terms of those torn up roads within the development, all of that's gonna be torn up, and they're gonna put in new driveway lanes throughout the development. So that should ultimately address those concerns. And so I will say that when you're looking at a lot of these developments, there's typically something in place that's a mechanism that should address many of these things, and if it's not, that's when you'll start seeing pushback from staff. And so if we're talking about lighting, there are regulations that address that. The traffic impact studies, I always lean on DOT simply because I'm not an expert in traffic. So developers are going to tell you it's not going to have any effect. What does the study indicate? And so, and the approvals that are required, let's say that study did indicate that there were going to be some negative impacts, DOT would have chimed in and requested some things at the intersection, probably of Butler and Main Street. So with that said, when those things are put in place and you look at everything in the totality in terms of the overall impact of the development itself, negative impacts to the community versus increase in tax base, you start to lend yourself towards a positive or favorable recommendation if those issues appear to be addressed. And in this instance, I can't say that any of the issues were raised were not adequately addressed in some way, shape, or form.
What,
And this is the site of the former trailer park, to answer your question.
thank you. Will there be a red light at a main thoroughfare like Rockfish or Hope Mills Road? Where's the Elk Park Road come out at?
Elk Park Road basically lends itself to Butler, which is signalized at North Main, at Main and Butler Street. So DOT didn't require any additional roadway improvements. And I think that was reflective of the recommendation of the study.
'Cause that's gonna throw a lot of traffic. A lot of traffic on an already busy thoroughfare.
Mr. Welch, did you want to speak also? Okay.
My name's John Welch. My property backs up to that property, and I have no objections to this. I've lived there 44 years, and once the trailer park left, if you want to know the condition of the property, just go drive that road around it.
I drove.
And a lot more goes on back there than I would like to see go back there. But if it doesn't come over my fence into my yard, it's not my business. But if it does, then I'll decide what happens. But I'd like to see something go in there that improves the property. I had several questions. He answered them very well for me before the meeting. That's
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to speak?
I'd just like to say this, and I agree with you, sir, that putting something back there would greatly enhance probably the safety and security of the residents in the area.
I would say in the development community, there's a saying we have in urban planning. One of the best deterrents of crime is development.
Yep.
And so what he's speaking to is some stuff that does take place back there.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
this property has been vacant since I've been here.
Yes, for a while.
Quite some time. And there have been a couple of swings at the fence with this piece that did not make it to the cutting board. And when this group came in, and they tried to cultivate it in a couple ways, because you got to realize the first thing they brought me was denied. It didn't even make it to a rezoning request, and so come back with something else. So let's cultivate it. And so we had very extensive conversation with Lowe's. We had very extensive conversation with public works staff, and all around. And we finally got something we felt would be a really good redevelopment of a defunct area. And that's when we decided it was probably in good enough shape for consideration by the board.
Okay. Motion to close public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to close public hearing.
All righty, and just so you know, this trailer park was a very large trailer park, and it was probably, I think, 2008 was when Lowe's purchased the big piece of property, and then it sat until Lowe's could. There was a building sort of moratorium. Nothing was being built in Hope Mills, and then they came back and built the Lowe's, which blocked off that land back there. And there is, because of the way it's situated, it does become a good place for activity, because you can go behind Lowe's
Yeah.
and you're right back there in the big open wooded area. So I'm glad to see something go there. I again believe it'll help, but
And just not to cut you off, the one thing that saved all this is when Lowe's came and Walmart came, Elk Park was recorded as a permanent access easement, because otherwise that property would have been landlocked. And if it would have been landlocked, it would have been impossible to develop it, and it would have stayed the way it is now permanently. So there's some little things we had to really, really comb through legally for the development of it. And like I said, we felt that we had a nice package that was worth consideration.
okay, is there to have?
Before you make a motion,
Sure.
just to throw a wrench in the works, if there is a desire for a condition to be a fence
You
or
gotta add it to the
some
motion.
additional, buffer, because this is conditional zoning, we do need to have consent of the applicant to impose any additional considerations, or these major conditions. If the applicant is not here to weigh in on that, it may be that we need to discuss that with them prior to approval. Once you approve the conditional zoning, then those conditions are permanent, and if we want to have a condition about fencing, we ought to have the applicant on board with that prior to approval.
Okay.
And
That's the big question.
I
Are
will
those
say,
people here?
I had that conversation, because the conversation I had with the gentleman here was talking about buffering, and the developer checked their pro forma to see if fencing or buffering was in their budget already. What they indicated was that they are perfectly willing to provide buffering back there. They did not specify fence or vegetative, and so what he's saying is, without them actually being here,
I understand.
it does get kind of dicey. If I were to speak for them, I would say they probably wouldn't be opposed to it, but I'm not sure how you guys want to handle that aspect of it. If that's something you want to put in as a condition, or if you want to trust the developer that he would do it without adding that condition, that's really up to you. But I think what he's saying, if you're going to add it as a direct condition in the motion, you may not be able to hear the case tonight, I think.
I will throw out an alternative. If they have agreed to a buffer, then you could put adequate buffer as a condition, and then Chancellor can sort of, if it's just a decision about what is the buffer, what's it gonna look like, that could be more of an administrative decision.
I agree with that, sis. Because the buffering as a condition is something they did agree with. He's talking about the type may be massaged through, but
Well,
they
and
did
within,
agree to a
yeah,
buffer.
and within this, you also put developmental conditions, including the submitted site plan, will apply at the time the review is processed, so that review would be, the buffering would be looked at. Because really what they're asking for is just a reduction in the number of spaces from 297 to 288 as far as the actual condition of their zoning. So based on that, that's the big deviation they're asking for. So probably when you get to the site plan, I would assume that,
Make sure that's
yeah.
reflected on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the site plan, it says there, the developmental conditions, including in the submitted site plan, so that's when you can
Okay.
make those recommendations, I believe.
Right. So,
But if the board wants to be very specific and say the buffer has to be a privacy fence,
And that throws the
that
wrench. I
specific
think if you just
condition
said buffer, then you should.
needs
Mhm.
consent of the property owner.
Well-
If you're going to impose it as a condition of conditional development, if you want to have it be more administrative, and your take is, I don't care whether it's a fence or bushes, as long as there's some privacy, then I think imposing that condition is just a buffer, and the specifics of that to be determined through the administrative process. I think that would work tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably a buffer of shrubbery is better looking than a privacy fence or a metal fence. But I've seen people go between them bushes to get where they want to go.
well,
So I wouldn't be in favor of shrubbery.
I think what the attorney is saying is basically in your motion, you specify buffering and you leave it up up to negotiations between staff and developer on the time.
I,
And
I,
that way you don't lock him in or something. that he
I
can't
can work with that. Long as we protect the citizens, like Ms. Bailey just stood up and said, that we have to begin to start looking at that and protecting our citizens. And I think this is one of the steps in the right direction. Make sure that we address something of that nature.
And one thing you're getting with this condition of the site plan, if someone, let's say this goes belly up and they want to do something else, that deviation from that site plan to come back to the board. So it locks in this development. for
Okay.
that project as well.
Okay, action.
We got a closed public hearing, don't we? Did we
Yes,
close
got to
public
We
hearing?
did.
Oh, okay. I make the motion. I think I have this right. In ZNG 00622, the Town of Hope Mills planning staff recommends approval of the, I'm sorry, am I reading that? Okay. Approval of the rezoning from R6A residential to R5 residential CZ, conditional zoning, and find the approval was consistent with the adopted Southwest Cumberland Land Use Plan 2013 map for median density residential, and the Board of Commissioners are requesting a buffer. I put it there. Is that okay if I add it there? Okay. The following change in conditions was considered in amending the zone ordinance, the zoning map to meet the development needs of the community. The proposed number of units capped at 198 will limit any negative impacts of the surrounding area with respect to increased traffic, and the rezoning approval is reasonable and in public interest because the site has access to public utilities, will allow a density in harmony with existing surrounding zoning, and will be in line with existing surrounding uses.
Can I have a motion to have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second?
Can I make one suggestion?
Sure.
To the language there?
Uh-huh.
That,
Yes.
instead of just saying buffer, we say a buffer sufficient to protect the privacy interest of adjoining landowners.
Okay.
So moved.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Next, we have case ZNG-008-22, rezoning of 7.36 plus or minus acres from CP Plan Commercial and ONIP Office and Institutional to CP Plan Commercial and CZ Conditional Zoning, and OIP Office and Institutional CZ Conditional Zoning, or to a more restrictive zoning district located at the northeast intersection of South Main Street and East Patterson Street, south side of Lakeview, submitted by the Town of Hope Mills on behalf of the Town of Hope Mills.
Yes, this is us.
Yes.
And this is Heritage Park. Just to give you guys an idea of why I got so many calls, people thought we were rezoning it to commercial. The front, people don't realize Patterson Street, the Oakland Chapel Church property is zoned commercial now. The back part, which is the most of the tract, is on O&I. But when Mr. Morrison and I we went through plan review a bunch of times with this, we realized you got three projects. You have the parking lot at Patterson Street. You have the bathroom in between the chapel and Dr. Rainey's office, and then you have Heritage Park. So instead of coming back three separate times, put a conditional zone over the top, which is the approval of the entire thing at once. That makes it a master plan, and he can basically do all three projects when he sees fit. So that's why it appears that the rezoning from and the rezoning to is the same thing with just adding the conditional zoning piece. But it's a 7.36 acre tract at the northeast intersection of South Main and East Patterson. It's owned by the town, and it's basically Heritage Park. The area adjacent to the chapel we developed with a standalone bathroom, designed with historical features, new parking lot at East Patterson Street. Heritage Park is designed in a manner where it's considered to be more of a passive environment. If you basically were to look at the lake, you have big tees, you have the gazebo, you have swimming, you have events at the lake. Heritage Park will be the design of it. It maintains more of the naturalistic landscape, so it'll be a little bit less intensive. There'll be 2 points of egress, one off of East Patterson Street where you're getting access to the church, and then there'll be an entrance off of Lakeview to the Heritage Park where the sign is right now. There are a total of 64 new parking spaces that'll be added with the Heritage Park parking and the Patterson Street parking, and that's another issue we're trying to resolve, because you notice with the area we're having to do parking by committee. So you're having 2 new additional parking areas that are walking distance to these parks. Southwest Land Use Plan calls for open space and mixed use. This is in compliance with that land use designation. This is your current zoning. This is your location of water and sewer. This is the land use designation. This is the overall site plan. What you see in the top right corner of the screen is the Heritage Park piece. What you see in the area to the left side of the screen is basically the design of the bathroom. But they did consolidate this into one massive parcel for this process. And here are your site photographs. This is a view of the chapel along East Patterson Street. This is a view of Lakeview crossing the bridge. Heritage Park is to your right. This is a view of the entrance of where the Heritage Park entrance will be. And this is the current location of the sign. And these are your staff recommendations. The Joint Planning Board heard it last month. Approval recommendation was unanimous. Staff recommendations for approval as well. I'd like to upload the floor to any questions that you may have.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I just have a comment, because I contacted you before you even went to.
Yeah.
Because one of the things people were concerned about was a bait and switch that, oh, it's going commercial, they're gonna put an office building there. I was like, no, it's okay, we're not putting an office building. So, I think you thoroughly explained that, so
And
people
that's
should.
normal. And that's perfectly normal. I don't mind it at all. And it was about 5 or 6 different people calling because I know this stuff. I mean, I'm a super nerd at this stuff. But your general public, when they're reading this stuff, even when, if you notice, we have the QR codes on our signs now. We give access to digital information with the packets. Even with that information, I'm speaking my language. So if people call, hey, are you rezoning the commercial? No, let me explain to you why.
Yes.
So the questions are understand. We understand what the questions were, and nobody, once we explained it, had any concerns at all. We basically just told them that it was really the best thing to do was to pretty much put LaMarco in a position where he doesn't have to come back to the board every time he touched one of those projects within Heritage Park. So that's the way we call it.
If this can get us closer to getting Heritage Park up and running, well, let's make it happen.
Okay, we have motion to open hearing.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
All right, is there anyone here at this time that would like to speak in reference to this zoning, in favor or against?
Madam Mayor, can I just make a general comment?
Sure.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Louis Oatman. I live at 5575 Walnut Drive here in Oak Mills. One of the resounding themes that I've heard throughout all this is citizens' lack of awareness of how town processes work. One of the things that works very well in the city of Fayetteville is there a Citizens Academy that teaches them these processes. I would just ask you to reconsider bringing that Citizens Academy back to better inform our public of how these processes work, so they better understand it and can better communicate what their concerns are and how they can communicate those concerns. Just an observation in all the stuff that I've been involved in.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
think
Owen.
all of us would echo that as well.
Yes,
It'll surprise you how often, as staff, we go to Scott and you guys say, "Can we do another one, or can we
Yeah,
do?"
that were very effective.
Because
Yeah.
what happens at City Academy is you're not just seeing what's happening in zoning. You're seeing how zoning interfaces with public works, and how I'm permanently married to inspections for the rest of my life. But what are the triggers that trigger something in zoning that triggers stormwater? How do these systems work together on one project? And that is something that I think we all can benefit from. I learn from our departments all the time, and so the citizens and anybody that wants that really step me to be quiet. But open up the floor to the public.
Okay, anyone else have any comments? All right, do we have a motion?
Motion to close public hearing.
All right, any other comments from the board?
I think it's about time we do something over there.
That's right.
How many years have we been talking about it?
That sign was put up in 2012.
Yep.
It stayed out, it looks very good for it to last that long too. So,
I make a motion.
okay,
In Z&G 008-22, the Town of Hope Mills planning staff recommends approval of the rezoning request from CP Plan Commercial and O&IP Office Institutional to the CP Plan Commercial CZ Conditional Zoning and O&IP Office Institutional CZ Conditional Zoning Districts finds the request consistent with the Southwest Cumberland Land Use Plan 2013 designation of open space and mixed use as a park development. Park development is recommended in this area. Approval of the request is reasonable and in the public interest because the district requested is in harmony with surrounding existing uses and zoning.
okay, have a
Second.
motion, have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Alrighty, the next thing on our agenda is case ZNG-009-22, rezoning of 10.08 plus or minus acres from RR Rural Residential CZ Conditional Zoning for indoor recreation for profit and other specific requested uses to RR Rural Residential CZ Conditional Zoning for indoor recreation for profit and other specific requested allowed uses or to a more restrictive zoning district located at 4221 Blacksbridge Road, submitted by Charlotte and Thurston Robinson on behalf of Charlotte and Thurston Robinson, owner. And I'll turn this over to Mr. McLaughlin.
One thing I like to highlight that should simplify this entire request, Mrs. Robinson is not rezoning her property. The reason why she had to do this request is because after the building was CO'd and open for business, she approached staff about the possibility of adding another use to the development, which is a daycare. If you go back to conditional zoning, when you get into conditional zoning, whatever uses that were approved and whatever that design was locked in. So because her original 2018 rezoning was a conditional zoning, she added uses to the 2018 case, but a daycare was not one of them. So this particular process is being done just to give her authorization to add the additional use. She's not doing any construction exterior for the development, but she had to go through the rezoning process to add daycares as a use. As such, in your staff report, it also shows that after, if approved through this, to add the use, she still has to go back through the Board of Adjustment to get the daycare approved. So the use is being added tonight, but the board doesn't have the authority to approve a daycare. The Board of Adjustment does. So she's already submitted the Board of Adjustment application, but the use had to be added through the zoning process first. And so that's why it looks like a duplication of the rezoning request, but I wanted to clarify, she's not doing anything outside the building. She's not changing the zone of the building. She's just adding a use that'll basically be confined interior to the building. Site size hadn't changed, address hadn't changed. Again, she's adding a daycare use, no exterior construction proposed. And I did again state that this request is approved, special use permit is also required. Land use designation wouldn't be affected either. This is your existing zoning, this is your sewer, this is your land use designation, these are your site photographs. And this is your staff recommendation. Joint Planning Board recommended approval unanimously on this project as well. Town of Hope Mills staff recommendation is also for approval. Open up the floor to any questions that you may have.
You should have kept reading that, but made the motion first.
All right, do we have any questions from the board?
Motion to open public hearing.
Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone want to speak against this? Hearing and seeing none, do I have a motion?
Motion to close public hearing.
Okay, and any other questions or anything from the board? Do I have action?
I'd like to make the motion, Madam Mayor.
Okay,
In 2020-009-22, the Town of Hope Mills planning staff recommend approval of the rezoning request for the rural residential conditional zoning for indoor recreation for profit and other specific requested allowed use of rural residential conditional zone for indoor recreation for profit and other specific requests allowed uses and found requests consistent with the Southwest Common Land Use Plan 2013 designation of medium-density residential and suburban residential as recreation development is recommended in this area. Approval of this request is reasonable and in public interest because the district requested is in harmony with surrounding existing uses and zoning.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed.
Thank you.
The next case that we have is the one that's deferred, and it would be in September 19th.
Yes.
All righty. We did have public comments, but Mr. Welch was the only person that signed up, and he did speak during the Huntington Ridge or the Elk Park development. So next on our consent agenda, we have moved from the consent agenda item C, which is consideration of approval of USDA Beaver contract. Is there anything on any remaining items on the consent agenda that you would like moved? Or do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda that's before you?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand, seeing none opposed. Next, we move to old business, consideration to authorize the town manager to approve change order number 1 with DK and Sons Construction Company Incorporated for asphalt paving and storm drainage at the Thomas Oatman Chapel, and this is behind tab 12. Do we have any questions for the town manager in reference to this?
If it's appropriate, I'll make a motion to allow the town manager to approve the change order with DK and Sons Construction Company for asphalt paving and storm draining at Thomas Oatman Chapel.
Okay, have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All in favor. All right, next thing on our agenda is new business, and the first item is a consideration of approval of nominating committee recommendations. And I'll turn this over to Mayor Pro Tem.
Hold on one second. I'm trying to get to the tab.
Okay?
Y'all have something behind tab 13? I don't have anything behind tab 13.
Just the one page.
I know it's one person.
Here. Big old thing.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, the nominating committee would like to nominate James Faddis to the Appearance Commission.
Okay? Any-
Second?
Yes, sir?
Second.
Second.
Okay, have a motion, have a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you. Thank you for getting involved. All right, next we have from the consideration of accepting a proposal from Carolina Parks and Play for the purchase and installation of municipal park splash pad for an amount not to exceed $371,233.76, and authorize the town manager to execute the purchase using the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Contract number 010521 LSI with Aquatics.
You said
Any
that or B.
question? Huh?
That was supposed to be C. B was supposed to be the Beaver contract.
Well, could we just go ahead on?
All right, I can do that. We can just flip that right over here. We'll go to the Beaver contract. All right, we're going to go to item from consent agenda, consideration of approval of USDA Beaver contract behind tab 8. And who would you like to direct this information to, or do you just have a question?
I just have a question.
Okay.
Let me try to get to my tab 8. Okay. Is the money coming from, is this coming from the budget for like the $80,000 for contracts?
Yes.
That's the only question.
And just so you know, we didn't put that in there, I think I took that part out. So this is the third year that we've done this. That's an up to amount. The first year we did it, it was about 6,000 because that's all the activity that we had. Second year, which would have been this last year, it was about 10, and that was basically, it's if it's impeding a roadway, or, I mean, we don't mess with them unless it's causing somebody an issue. Typically, it's a resident. The last time it was roadway, Railroad Street to be exact, but we've had issues over in Steeplechase as well. There's a pond back there, and they make a mess. So we do it just to, we don't have authority to get rid of them. We have to use somebody who's authorized.
Okay.
Okay,
That was it now.
all right. Now do we have a motion to approve item from our consent agenda, item C?
I make a motion that we approve, the USDA Beaver contract.
Okay, have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Next item is the
Your-
one I've already told you about.
Yes, sir.
Humble apologies.
So this is consideration of accepting the proposal from Carolina Parks and Play. So do I have Mr. Morrison? Very good.
I'll take the motion if you all want.
Okay.
Okay, we can
Do
get,
do y'all have any questions for Mr. Morrison, Lamarcus Morrison, or anything?
I got a comment.
Okay?
Just like the playground, this is another item that's been a big topic, and I know that Dr. McCray has, heard a lot about this and worked on it. We all have.
yes.
And every time we do a Parks and Rec study, this is another item that all the citizens have asked for to come to Hope Mills. And once again, this board's finally getting it done and moving forward with it.
You make that motion
I'll make the motion then.
Okay.
What you need to
They come have a question.
make a motion to set the proposal from Carolina Parks and Play for the purchase and installation of the municipal park splash pad for an amount not to exceed $371,233.76, and authorize the town manager to execute the purchase using the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Contract number 010521-LSI with Aquatix. Is that it?
Yes. Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Any other discussion?
Yes, ma'am, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
It's been a topic of discussion around part of town anyway. Why are we putting the splash pad at the old park instead of what could be the future of Hope Mills recreation at the golf course?
Okay, so there's two reasons for that actually. So when the original master plan was done, and they did a master plan for the golf course, and they did a master plan for municipal park as a transition. This is where the municipal park is where they show the splash pad. So that's the first part. The second piece, which is a little bit more complex, the golf course don't yet have infrastructure there. We don't have water, we don't have sewer. So unfortunately, if we were to do the splash pad at the golf course, you probably spend a large portion of your $300,000 putting in the sewer line, putting in the water line, electrical, etc. And so the golf course does not yet have that infrastructure to facilitate a splash pad or any type of vertical construction at this point, because we just don't have the infrastructure there to do so.
At the least resistance.
Was the infrastructure going to be the first thing we have to do there?
For, well, I tell you what, so a portion of the ARPA funds were put in place for 2 baseball fields. And so you will have to do infrastructure, meaning, for a regulation type baseball field. In my opinion, you want sports field lighting, you want irrigation, things of that nature. So you will have to bring those utilities to the future baseball field. So a portion of that infrastructure will be needed. A good one good thing about development going in behind us, we might be able to piggyback on some of the things that, you know, a future developer, you know, might come in with the proposed apartments in the back of there. So there is a possibility of some shared use as far as infrastructure, meaning turning lanes, lighting, electrical, et cetera. But that is going to be a large portion of your ARPA funds. Will have to do infrastructure.
I know we'll have to have bathrooms and all that over there.
We will. That does not necessarily have to be a portion of phase one. It'd be nice. I mean, to do a real good phase one, you really do want your score station, restrooms, et cetera, as a good phase one for the project.
Well, we established the fund to start on that. Can you give us an idea of when we may start?
So my intention was to piggyback on something that Beth is going to bring before you all, which is an on-call contract. On-call contract will allow us to select an engineering firm that will design, you know, for some of the infrastructure I just discussed. You will need certain engineering disciplines, electrical, mechanical, to design some of these things. And so that's going to be the first phase of the project, is to bring an engineer in to design civil for turning lanes, et cetera, for your your electrical work, mechanical work. And so that's going to be the first phase. We'll have to bring in design professionals to do that piece. I don't think we're going to need surveying, because we did get that site surveyed about 2 years ago when we put the parking lot in. So that's going to be your first phase. I've heard the question, can we do some clearing and do something now on some of the fields? Short answer is yes, we're doing that just for practice. But as far as playing, we won't be able to play on a regulation-sized baseball field until we get it properly designed. So that's going to be your first phase of the project. I've been talking to Maxie, and so our intent is maybe sometime in August, maybe September, once the on-call contract's been approved, to sit down with the engineers and discuss the scope of the project.
Okay.
Has Maxie touched base with you about contacting sponsors?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Matter of fact, we
And-
have some things we can't discuss just yet, but we have a couple of possibilities and some partnerships that with a possible business entity that might be able to help us out with renovating the fields.
Wooden bat leg or somewhere?
Say it again?
Okay.
The wooden bat leg?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we
Okay,
need to get back on to,
Okay.
we got a motion on the floor. We have a motion on the floor to consider accept the proposal from Carolina Parks and Play. And would it be possible to put that picture on the website?
Oh yeah.
I think that's the other thing, is people have seen all the splash pads, the one at Grays Creek, the one out there at John Griffin Middle School or Honeycutt. And so what we want them to see is ours,
Absolutely.
because ours is very unique.
Right. And if
It's
you
not
need
gonna
a better,
look-
if you need
it's-
a better image, I can get you a larger image. But this is exactly what it's going to look like.
Yep.
That's good.
And I
Marijuana.
think it's a baseball theme, and I think that's exciting.
And the playground as well.
Yeah, and the playground will be
playground.
in that is also,
Baseball thing.
Yeah.
And our colors.
yeah, it's all,
Red, white,
everything
blue.
up
So
there
we
is
can
gonna be
definitely put
really
both of
neat
those
when
up.
it's done. All righty, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate all your
Thank you,
hard
board.
work.
Thank you, board.
Yes.
I would like to take some time to recognize Marco Morrison. He has made a lot of these projects come to fruition, and he's really the backbone with a lot of these park and rec things. And I'm not gonna let McAdams take them away, because I know how much he's given them and pushed them, but he really has been instrumental this year. I appreciate that.
Yep.
We appreciate it as well, don't we?
That's right. We
Yes,
just want,
sir.
we would just like to have all this done before the first of the year, so we gotta get this building, this happening, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Fast as we can.
All righty. Next we have, are there any questions in reference to our manager's report?
Let's see. Let me look at it real quick.
Madam Mayor, I have a question.
Okay.
It's not included on this, but I have a question, because I see it's, just for like the chapel thing, it's highlighted, I don't know if it's highlighted in the agenda packet, talking about ADA. I know a citizen approached me, a couple of times, is, town hall, as far as ADA access, are we gonna fix that?
So schedule.
We have an ADA staff member, got some training in our building official, but are you looking at, I know Dr. Owen has had numerous issues getting in.
Yes.
It's hot out there, but you have to sit, sorry.
Yeah.
But are you talking specific to the front doors or to?
Well-
Because the back access here is not a normal hours thing, and we do have that open once the officer.
Yeah. Once this opens over here, though, I think it'll be corrected because
Yeah.
it'll be like it was. You'll have access from the parking lot between the two buildings, and you'll come in the front door. But it's still gonna be, Yes, sure.
So there is no accessibility. This gentleman and I cannot open the doors and come in. There's no push button electric door.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
The doors are too heavy for me. I have broad shoulders. So for me to get in, I have to wait, call the town, try to hope somebody answers the phone. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
give you an example.
Okay.
Okay.
So just something to consider as you're looking at it.
Yeah.
I can get in and out of the Parks Rec building, but
Can't get in and out here.
Okay.
Okay.
Ma-
And I'm not sure, is that something you
Yes.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Cisco, do you want to respond to that?
while he's coming over, and then we possibly maybe put a bell that they can ring?
There is
Very
a
spe-
system, but it goes to finance. and
No,
like
no.
tonight, they're not here after hours meeting.
For the
Sir.
facilities and the ADA, we have been working on that. If you remember 2 years ago, we did the Big T's because it was our largest attraction, so to speak. This past year, we did the ball fields with the bathrooms at the ball fields. This year, we're doing a lot of sidewalk work with truncated domes and that type of accessibility. And it is on our list in the next couple of years to do. We have to do a retrofit on the front lobby because we've got to change counter heights, door pull pressures, push plates and stuff of that nature. So we do have it on our list. It's a matter of, the funding essentially. We're only get so much a year to do.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I mean, is it that much money to just put a
Modify
opener
door.
on that door, like a temporary to go ahead and correct the problem? I mean, is it that much money? Can we
Okay.
can we not find the money and go ahead and fix that problem?
Well,
Thank you.
Commissioner, the door is not the only thing that is not ADA compliant.
I mean, for right now, just getting them in the building, that's their main thing, is they said they can't get in the building. I mean, we don't have to do it all at one time, just a
But it's all
temporary
not
fix on the
compliant.
door.
I mean, you're just picking and choosing. If we're going to do it, we need to do it right, and do it once, my opinion.
I know you said you have money budgeted in a couple of years, but all I'm saying is fixing the doors now where they can get access. I mean, I know you got it planned out a couple of years. Was saying address the noted problem tonight with just putting an automatic opener on that door to get them in the building.
because just like you say, it would be the bathrooms, it's a lot of.
It's a
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But
So-
right now, and I hope I'm allowed to speak, but I mean, if nobody's sitting at that desk to the left, which I think is your area, I don't know whose area it is, but the desk to the left, I don't get in the building. And I'm
Sure.
trying to come up, I'm working on a project and trying to come up and get some things done. If nobody acknowledges me, I sit out there in the heat until somebody comes. Like, to give you an example tonight, I think the young lady who does the stormwater left me in the building.
Okay. Question, I mean, carrying off what Commissioner Marley said, I mean, we understand that there's additional areas that need to be modified to make ADA compliant. But how challenging would it be to go ahead on and get the mechanism required so they can have access to the door to swing open? Is that, I mean, I think that's what Commissioner Marley's asking, right?
Yeah, I'm not
Yes.
the whole project, just
the
'cause
doors.
I know Mr. Cisco said he had it scheduled out a couple of years, budget and everything, but I'll just see if we just go ahead
If you want
and
it
do
done,
the door.
I'll bring you a budget amendment for the next meeting.
Will you please? If that's fine with the manager.
Town manager?
Yeah, we'll investigate the cost and then
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
Thank you. All righty, any other questions?
Oh,
that
yes, hold on.
Okay.
Oh, on time, you know what? No, you have it in there already. I'm sorry. It's correct.
Okay, good. All right, the next on our agenda, we have our committee liaisons. We'll start with Commissioner Marley with Historic Preservation Committee.
Yes, ma'am. They met last week. They pretty much discussed how the 4th of July stuff went for them, and they're working hard on getting a hard inventory of everything. They were needing to get into the chapel to get to. That's all they had left was stuff that was in the chapel. I contacted the town manager that night. He answered right away, and he took care of that issue for them right on the spot there. Got them the answer they needed. So they're working hard on that. And they had discussion about the old mill days, or the reunion, what they wanted to call it, and how they wanted to address it to bring in more people and make people aware of it, and who they wanted to target to get mass participation on that. Everything else that they had questions about, I addressed with the manager, and he answered those concerns right away and sent back a nice email to them. And so I think they got the answers they were looking for.
Okay, good job. All right, Commissioner Mitchell, Appearance Commission, and the Regional Land Use Advisory Commission.
We had a meeting with the Sunshine. That was off the Sunshine
Oh, okay.
Committee.
Sunshine, I didn't, we need to add that one there too.
And actually, I put together a survey, and I wasn't here this weekend. I was out of town. But if I'm not mistaken, there's at the Prime Movers event, and they was passing out the surveys, and I guess trying to stimulate the interest in the community, get individuals involved. We did not have appearance committee because but a meeting, because we didn't have enough for a quorum, and of course Rule Act did not meet. We meet, I think, once every 3 months.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Scarola, Veterans Affairs Committee.
Madam Mayor, I have my chairman of the Veterans Committee, Dr. Oatman. Dr. Oatman, would you like to brief?
So I have 2 updates for you. One is on the special committee that you chartered as a board. We have selected a site, probably the fastest moving committee I've seen. We have selected for the location of the new Veterans Memorial Park as the space between the Parks and Rec and the Town Hall as the new memorial site, if the board so chooses. That's our recommendation. We did consider other places, but they did not meet access, parking, indoor facilities for people to access via ADA, and indoor activity should it rain, and that met all the requirements. Now, there was discussion about the golf course, but that project has been slated for other things, and it's up to the board to decide what they want to do with that. But that's our recommendation of the board. I would only add that to move to the next phase, you have to decide whether you want to resolve us as a committee, or if you want to keep us on through the rest of the project, because it's going to take asking for requests for proposals for what they think is going to be the ideas for the park. I would like to make a recommendation that the park be named after Mr. Roth. Mr. Roth served well to our country, and as a prisoner of war, I think it would be a great honor to name the memorial park after him. Just a thought. And then for the Veterans Affairs Committee, we have reserved a table for August 20th at the Purple Heart Dinner. We reserved a table for 8, I believe, and we'll spend $1,000 to allow the commissioners and board members of the VAC to attend and represent the town. So we're moving ahead. Last thing is, we did have a company come in. This is the VAC and part of the special committee. Company out of South Carolina who does memorials, and they did look at the current memorial, and they have deemed it to be unmovable and to be possibly, and this is a legal consideration that the town will have to have, is during construction, the gentleman indicated that the vibrations and everything that goes on, that memorial may crumble. That it is in that bad of shape. So a legal question would be is who owns the liability should that memorial crumble? We are not gonna move it, we're not gonna touch it, we're gonna leave it in its current state, but there are matters before the board to consider as far as where the cannon goes, where the benches that are inside the building area go, and I would recommend, with the help of the VFW, that, you know, we probably place them at the golf course storage area, but that's up to the VFW, because it's most.
Okay. And it appears that it's going to be June before they actually start doing, there'll be some utilities movements. But I would propose to the board that because they have done, this has been a very good committee, an excellent committee. I would propose that we continue this committee because we also know there's going to be a fundraising piece to this. And we found that when we do have a committee that heads it up, that we do have a better result. So I would just like to ask the board that they move forward with looking for proposals, and everything has to be approved by the board, but just keep this committee intact because they are, I believe they've done a good job thus far.
Yes.
Are we looking for a motion?
I think so, a motion to keep the Veterans Memorial Restoration Committee
I'll make a
in place.
motion that we continue with the Veterans Committee Association, who is with Dr. Oatman and Pro Tem McRae.
I'll second that.
Okay, have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by-
Discussion, Mayor.
Yeah.
Okay, discussion? Sure.
One thing I'd like to see, I don't know the rest of the board, I don't want to speak for the rest of the board, but I'd like to see that committee and Don and the manager work with them and task them working with Don and the manager to go ahead and get us some, I don't know if it's feasible, but preliminary cost estimates
Yes.
of what it's going to cost to build this new park, and move in that direction. So we'll have a dollar amount for the next year's budget, so we can go ahead and be making plans for
Yes.
that. Because if construction is going to start next June, you know, we'll have a memorial, and you know, there's going to be memorial services coming up, and I don't want to not have those here in the town because we've had pretty good turnout and participation with that, and I think a lot of people come here every year for ours. So I'd like to see us go ahead and get some pricing so we can see what we're looking at, even if we have to do it in phases to get to where we need to be. But I'd like to go ahead and have them move forward with that as well, not just keeping them as is, but tasking them to
Yeah.
come back with recommendations.
I think, and also with that would be the proposal of how they want it to look. Then we
Right.
could get those estimates
Designs.
based on that, and likewise the feasibility. I guess that would bring in our town manager and adding Mr. Cisco as needed, because I think that would help them too as they move forward. And then again, ways of raising money. We've got
Right.
some ideas of ways of getting some money, but once you have something in hand that we can show people, it's a lot easier.
Also, they've identified an area that they wanted into town, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But then again, we get back to the Don part and making sure there's nothing over there that we're going to dig up or mess up, or just, you know, the feasibility of it. I'm all for it, and I've had a lot of phone calls. I know we've got a motion on the floor, but I talked to Mr. Oatman tonight. I've had a lot of phone calls from people concerned that, well, the board ain't going to do it. The board's not going to spend the money. The board don't want to move it. But that's wrong. I think every board member up here is in favor of this project, and we're going to make sure there's money there to do the project. I just want to put that out there now, because I think that's a big concern with a lot of veterans and everything. But I'm behind this project. I think this board is behind this project. And we want to see it move forward, and so.
And I would just only add that is our approach. We've taken a phased approach to this. It's, you know, maybe it starts with one monument, and we grow from there. We have had some input, but the one other alibi before you finish your motion is there is the Heroes Homecoming for Veterans Day.
Right.
That the town has no activities planned for. And I sent you a private message, but the community event that occurred, I think would be a great 3-day type event leading up to whether we're gonna do a veterans parade or whatever we're gonna do. Having those activities to help raise funds would be my recommendation towards where we're going in the future. And then the last question I would have is there was money given to the town by the Department of Transportation that could be used towards, I don't know where it went, I'm not responsible for that, but it could be go towards those requests for proposals to get the two companies. There's one in Charlotte and there's one in Charleston, South Carolina that does this full time. That I have no authority. I mean, town manager could do it. I have no authority other than the little $4,000 I have left. I don't think we cover that. So I would need that support from the board.
Right. You're talking about the $88,000 that they use for the front of the monument that we're losing?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I don't know what the exact amount is, but
I think the town manager can speak to that because that funding also is to cover the, we're losing part of the walking trail and we're also
Right.
losing part of that front entrance. Or not losing it, it's gonna be rearranged. So I think that funding was, a price was for those things too.
Yeah, those easements actually, Dan has the copies of some of them here. That's the entire project, town-owned property, so that's not just in the area of the park. And so we have some water infrastructure that we need to move out here. It's in the right way. It's actually the fire line for the Park and Rec building. And then the additional, we're not gonna be doing this project before our building is finished. So we have a budget of about $30,000 to do sidewalks on the new project, but doing a 6 or 8 foot sidewalk along Gulfview and then the path along the full distance of that project off of the street. That's not gonna be sufficient to cover all that, so we do have the contingency budget and things, and so I think they presume that the DOT project will be commenced or finished in the same timing as our project, which that's obviously not gonna occur now. So some of those funds are, I mean, where we come up with the money and how we allocate that doesn't necessarily have to be from those funds.
Right.
But it is one of the areas the finance director was suggesting as we get those additional expenses, that's where some of that money may come in.
The county has been tasked, the county veterans, I think, what, 50,000, I think is what we've been tasked with. But until I get the language and the correct directive from our representatives, and hopefully hopefully there might be more. I'm not for sure yet, but if it is, I get their approval and authorization, and we'll try to. I know definitely $50,000 we've been directed right now.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, Dr. Oatman has been phenomenal as chairperson, not only for the Veterans Committee, but also for the Memorial Committee. He is on it with his paperwork, and when he says he has his phases, I mean, he literally has his phases, and we were sticking to the paperwork, like, you know, all know that that's too far in advance, we're only tasked with this, and so it is very, very precise, and that's why I think we're fully engaged to go ahead with
Get
more.
this moving, yeah.
Got to answer his question too, and he was on coming. I did in the meeting. We're gonna do, as of right now, Hope Mills is doing exactly what they did last year, carrying out off the Veterans Committee and the VFW, working collectively together.
And we've already figured that we can move the site from that, for currently have it over here, because we can do it like we did for National Day of Prayer and
Right.
for other occasions. Use that gazebo as the place for sound.
But just for the board's knowledge, if you haven't been to the meetings, the Welcome Home Heroes theme is family focused.
Right.
So I was thinking, I mean, it was perfect. I couldn't, the group you chaired, Mayor Pro Tem, Dr. McRae was perfect, spot on, and I think 2 or 3 days leading up to what we're gonna do for Veterans Day would add to that event and make it even more successful for the town residents, because if we're gonna make it for the families, we've gotta have activities so that the soldiers can relax, and their families enjoy activities.
Yep.
Just my
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor of continuing the committee with Dr. Oatman, I have, all in favor? We got, all right, so we're good to go. We're gonna carry on.
I would be
All All righty. Did you have a comment, Dr. McCray?
No, I was just saying that the golf course was a good setup, and then a lot of the families enjoyed themselves. So if we could partner and help out in any way to try to make it like veteran themed, but I think that's a really, really good location. So if we can help in any way, just let me know.
Just have those family activities, I think, was tremendous. And I know we're focused on the veterans for Veterans Day, and I do want to focus on that. Don't get me wrong, I'm one myself. But I think to be able to have their families, I think it's Friday or Monday, I forget.
It's Friday.
Actual
Veterans Day is 11th,
Yes.
Friday.
Maybe like 2 days leading up to that, the town sets aside a veterans welcome home celebration at the park. I don't, and I don't know if I have the money in my budget.
We'll do that on the committee.
Well, I'm just saying, to do electric, to have an amphitheater type thing rented, and maybe think about different local bands, like Dakota Rain or whatever, come out and perform. Just thoughts that I want to put to the board and ask that our Parks and Rec planning person help us with this
And
event and working with Dr. McCray and Commissioner Scarola.
Well, and you know that we have had those kinds of activities up here, and with if the new parking is done, which will be more additional parking out here, it would be feasible to do just like we do 4th of July, the stage out here. Then you've got facilities close by, and access is easier. Just like when we did the food truck rodeos, we have had some really good events that we haven't had since COVID. But that would be another thought too. So yeah, good idea. Yeah.
I mean, Fayetteville's doing a big thing, Cumberland County's doing a big thing, but I want to see the town be equally as big in this process.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
If you're gonna do it, you got to move now. You got to have a plan put together, because at the next meeting is gonna be the finalization meeting. The Heroes Homecoming meeting I'm talking about.
Yep. And that gives us the advertisement we need, because they actually do printed material, so that we could be included in those printed materials. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I would be surprised if the parking lot is finished by that time.
I know, wishful thinking. I'm just.
December maybe, but.
Well, we can still, at a minimum, use the school parking with their permission. I mean, I just think it's the right thing to do for the town, just my take. As a lonely citizen of the town who's lived here, as Jerry knows, and most of y'all know, but lived here for 35 years and raised 4 children, I want to see it be a very big success. We have a lot of pride in our past. Our future is what is motivating us. And today, is what we enjoy as a gift, so.
All right.
Thank you, sir. All right, next we have Mayor Pro Tem with Parks and Rec and Prime Movers.
My report is short, Madam Mayor. Tonight we got the update about the chapel restroom and the municipal splash pad and playground, and a little bit about Heritage Park. So everything that we kind of discussed, we've had updates moving forward with that over the last 2 weeks. We do meet again on Monday night, and just a reminder that Saturday, September the 17th, is a fall litter sweep and town-wide yard sale. Bites, Booze, and Brews. I gotta remember those 3 B's. Is the name that they're using.
Yep.
I don't want to say to replace Old Mill Day, but yeah, they're trying to change the name up on that festival that weekend. On Saturday, October the 29th, from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And the Prime Movers actually want to host something on that Sunday, as they did last year, with jazz on the lake, or concert on the lake, or actually bringing something here at Town Hall. They're not.
So the actual, what would have been Old Mill Days, is going to be on the 29th this year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
29th.
Okay.
Okay.
From 4 to 8 p.m.
29.
And then the Veterans Day ceremony is stated here, November the 11th at 3 p.m.
Yeah, that Veterans Day.
And Christmas in Hope Mills is Friday, December the 2nd, and Saturday, Saturday, December the 3rd. Friday, December the 2nd, and Saturday, December the 3rd, which usually that Saturday we have our parade. And the self-defense workshops and concealed carry classes are ongoing, And we are now open for sports registration, soccer, football, fall baseball, volleyball, and cheer. And we also had a discussion about our roundabouts. We were also on a call with DOT, but I'm sure we'll discuss that at our next board meeting. So, and the prime movers, again, they had a great event this weekend. We do have one seat open on that committee, that one in the Historic Preservation Committee. So we do have seats open. And now I have it that we're going to partner with the veterans on Veterans Day. And they want to host a food distribution at Southview like we did 2 years ago, in the month of November leading up to Thanksgiving. And other than that, just trying to do the concert on the late that Sunday, October the 3rd, to go along with Bites, Booze, and Brews. And I think that's it. That's all.
One question, does the historical committee, are they aware that the time frame on the Bites, Brews, and Booze?
They didn't discuss anything about it, but.
I mean, because their old meal days usually falls at that on the same day. So that's what I'm wondering, is because they would not want to be, the 4 to 8 would not be good for the meal reunion. So that might be something to coordinate and make sure we get that. Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Mayor, may I ask a
Yes, sir.
question?
Uh-huh.
Upon the completion of the John Hodges building next door, can we start planning for maybe a Christmas dinner for the town employees and at the big room in the middle over there?
I'm sure we could coordinate something. At this point, I don't want to get too certain because we're going to have a lot of coordination. And my hope is that they wrap up and are out of here before the end of November, but they do have till end of December to finalize the project. So assuming everything stays on schedule and proceeds well, they were telling me hopefully we could move in mid-September if everything goes right. So I think we'll keep a placeholder, but wait till we get closer to making definite plans.
Okay. Yeah, I know in the past, we've had them at the rec center. We've had them in the fire station parking area. We've had them a bit everywhere except the mayor's house.
That might be next, huh?
We wanted to do a state of the town dinner where we actually did like white tables in the fire bays. Maybe kind of a classy event, do the state of the town with the mayor and everything and update. But it's kind of hard to do that for the new building because at that point it'd be like.
That's not there yet anyway.
July or June.
That was just a thought. Somebody asked me about it the other day if I was gonna do anything there for Christmas with that main big building, which I thought was a good idea.
We'll try to find something out. I don't want to set it in stone until we know what the schedule is.
I mean, we're putting a big stove in there to cook on.
Well, we can plan, just don't pull the trigger.
All righty, well, of course, Mayor's Youth Leadership won't kick back into gear until school starts. Mid-Carolina Council of Governments, I am also now the Senior Tar Heel Legislative Delegate for Cumberland County, and they did meet, and I'll bring back to the board the recommendations that they'll be taken to the General Assembly, but it's representative of all Cumberland County, really it's Cumberland, Harnett, and Sampson County. We have a FAMPO meeting July 27th at 8:30. I'll bring back an update from there. August the 5th is the Mayor's Coalition meeting. We will be meeting at PWC. If you would like to attend, we just need to get some numbers so that our commissioners are invited, but PWC is hosting it this year. And that's at August 5th. And we normally, breakfast starts about 7:30.
Oh, no.
So, yes, a little early. August 28th, I have Heroes Homecoming at 11:30, which will again be finalizing more plans for Veterans Day. August the 28th is Heroes Homecoming meeting, and that's at Fayetteville Tech. So that is the extent of my update, and I'll have, in the FCEDC Municipal Advisory meeting we have not had one. So that's the other thing that represent the town on, but we haven't had a meeting. All right, so staff comments. Do we have any staff comments? Ms. Starling, do you have any staff comments? No? Staff comments? Yes, sir.
I want to remind you, next week is next Tuesday is our community meeting with the churches and the
That's right.
businesses. It's at 6 p.m. over at the Parks and Rec building, so, if you guys are available, love to have you.
It's next Tuesday, right?
It's next Tuesday, 6 p.m., 26th.
Yeah, we got it on my calendar.
All right, we're good to go. All right, anyone else? All right, at this time, we do have a closed session scheduled, so I'll ask for Mayor Pro Tem to have a motion.
I'd like to call a closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A6 to discuss a personnel matter in NCGS 143-318-11A3 attorney-client privilege.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed, we'll beg your patience. We'll be going to the front conference room, and we'll be back as quick as we take care of business. At this time, I'll call our meeting back to order. Do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move to seal the minutes of the closed session until such as time of the release of the information would no longer frustrate the purpose of the closed session and further no action was taken.
I have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn.
I'm trying, look, doggone, y'all
You're
made me.
already late.